Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marcus and today I'm going to talk about how to care for this gorgeous Philodendron Florida Green. As you can see, this is a very tall plant of mine. I got this for a very good and reasonable price, and yeah, it's pretty grown right now, so I have to put it on the floor. But yeah, we're gonna talk about how to care for this plant because a lot of you have been requesting me to do this video on how to care for this Florida Green. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video. So let's talk about this plant a little bit. So what is a Florida Green? So Florida Greens are these gorgeous philodendrons with these amazing lobing leaves, as you guys could see. It is absolutely gorgeous, and I actually purchased this for a few months now. I think 4 months or 5 months already, and it's already grown so much for me. Yeah, so these plants are all climbers. Like most of the philodendron family, they are all climber plants except for McDowell, Gloriosum, Plougmanii, Mame. Those are crawlers, but these specific philodendrons in general, they love to climb. So be sure to provide it a pole. I provided mine with a moss pole that I made. I will make a video soon talking about how to make these moss poles because it's actually pretty simple. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a different video. Now, without further ado, let's just get into the care tips for this plant. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is definitely the soil mix. Alrighty, so let's talk about the soil mix here. So philodendrons and like all other aeroids, they prefer a very aerated soil, hence the name, they call it aeroids. Because they like to have a lot of oxygen flow through the roots, and they are climbers, so these prefer to climb and they provide a lot of aerial roots, and they do not like to be in soggy, wet feet. Like all plants in general, like succulents or maybe flowers, they do not like to be overwatered. So if you want to prevent root rot, I would recommend you using a very aerated mix, which consists of cocoa peat, pine barks, pumice, perlite, and also if you want to add a little bit more, girth to it, I would recommend you putting a little bit of leca, just so it will be a very aerated soil mix. And also the leca could actually hold some extra moisture, and when there's extra or excess water, it will just shed away. But yeah, that's pretty much it for soil mix. Let's move to watering. Alrighty, so for watering, I prefer to use either rainwater or filtered water for these plants because they absolutely do well in them. However, I do not like to use tap water because they consist a lot of chemicals, sometimes unwanted minerals, for example, salts or maybe chloride or chlorine. So they would basically fry the tips of your leaves, and you do not want that to happen. So I would recommend you putting these plants out in the rain if there is, because they consist a lot of good minerals, and rainwater is basically filtered water that is organic. And these plants will basically thank you for it because they love the good rain. But yeah, that's pretty much it for watering. I will move on to the next topic, which is of course the lighting or sunlight. So for sunlight and also lighting, these plants all grow in the tropicals, so they always grow underneath the canopy of the trees, and they always climb on trees trunk just to get higher ground so they get more light. They do not love to be in the full sun, because sometimes if you give it full sun, it will cause a lot of damage to the leaves and they can't tolerate it. So I would not recommend you putting it full sun. However, I would love to put these plants in a partial shade to a shaded area, but still with lights. If your house is, not bright enough, or maybe it does not have a big window, don't worry, just provide it with grow light. I usually do that as well, which my grow light is right here above somewhere here. And yeah, they pretty much will just thank you for it, and sometimes they will grow bigger and bigger leaves and more matured leaves for you because you provided more grow light, and also when it's climbing up a pole. Yeah, let's talk about the next thing, which is definitely pests. So this plant right here, they don't have much pests. However, I did notice some spider mites before, and I treated that. It's pretty simple to treat if you always, check up on your plants, and be sure to check up on your plants almost twice a week just to ensure there isn't any pests. Because once you notice some spider mites, immediately clean it with neem oil and hand sanitizer solution and spray it down, wipe it down, just to prevent it from spreading more. Sometimes when you don't, keep this attended and you don't really bother about it, the spider mites could actually spread, and it could be very, very vigorous. And sometimes, in most cases, you will lose the plant to the spider mites as well. Now, so far, I have seen spider mites. I haven't seen any mealybugs, scales, or even aphids on this, which is pretty good. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they are very tolerant and they're very, very hardy. So you don't really need to struggle much with pests. However, just keep in mind to check up for spider mites in that case. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is definitely the humidity for these plants. This is the last thing that I'm going to talk about, which is of course the humidity. Now, these plants absolutely love the humidity. I put mine I put mine beside a humidifier, which is on the corner of my shelf. I provided a lot of humidity. Now, I live in Malaysia, so it's constantly high in humidity and it's hot. So these plants prefer the hot and humid climate. So be sure to provide that humidity amount. I would recommend like 50 and above % humidity. They absolutely love it, so they would grow better. And I do notice one thing: if you do not provide it enough humidity, the new growth will be stuck in its casing or the cataphyll most of the time, because it does not have enough humidity, and it just gives you weird growth. And that's also another sign if there is pests, so be sure to look out for those points. Basically, if a plant has some issues, it will show you, it will tell you. So let's just cover up everything in a very summarized form. So if it's overwatered, the whole plant or majority of its leaves will start to turn yellow, and it will basically drop off. And also will have a lot of black stem, and a lot of roots will be gone. If it's too bright and you're providing your plant too bright of a light, and you see a lot of patches and dried spots, those are usually caused by sunburn. So be sure to put these plants in a very partial sun, partial shade location. And if there are pests, most of the times your leaves will have a lot of tiny bite marks around the surface or maybe underneath the leaf. So be sure to check both sides of the leaves twice a week, I would recommend. And for humidity, if you do not provide it enough humidity, the new growth will kind of come out weird, or sometimes you'll get stuck in its cataphyll as well. So be sure to provide it high humidity, just so that you could provide it a very good environment to grow new leaves and more mature leaves. So that's pretty much it for this entire video. I really hope you guys learned something about this video that help you with the care tips about this philodendron. I would recommend it to any beginner growers, especially if you want something that looks very unique and something that is very low price. I'm pretty sure now it's pretty cheap for these plants. You could get like a full grown plant for at least 34 ringgit or so. It's pretty cheap, and they are very hardy. I would definitely recommend it to beginner growers, and especially if you want to have like a very unique plant as well, other than just a Monstera deliciosa or maybe some other plants. But yeah, this is pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!